You have to do in order to improve your poll numbers? You have 60 seconds.
Actually, in the last poll, in the Travolcker poll, I am essentially at a three-way statistical tie for first place, and that is as a direct result of the people here in Pennsylvania because they want one of their own. You know, I don't make many promises on the campaign trail, but I can promise the people of Pennsylvania that when these carpetbaggers lose, you will never see them again. And if they should win, you will never see them again. And I think we've gone through two of the worst years of our lives during the pandemic and on. And I believe people are very concerned about making sure that our voices are represented. They want someone who doesn't just parachute into our state because it's an opportune time for them to do so. And then if they should win, then they leave and we have no voice. This seat is too important to just throw away our voice like that. All right.
Barnette, you have 30 seconds. You have spoken passionately about the issue of abortion while on the campaign trail. You're very much pro-life. Should there be any exceptions in your view? You have 30 seconds.
Yeah, well, actually, I actually should get a minute because you've asked them two questions and you're just now getting to me. But a high name ID, which is really one of the only reasons why Mehmet Oz received that endorsement, works both ways. His name ID is so high that people know he's not a conservative. Hence the reason why I'm the only one in that last poll who shot up and got the benefit out of that particular endorsement. MAGA does not belong to President Trump. MAGA, although he coined the word, MAGA is actually, it belongs to the people. Our values never shifted to President Trump's values. It was President Trump who shifted and aligned with our values.
Thank you very much.
Risky in a crisis. Ms. Barnette, how would you bring back high-paying American jobs and address the supply chain shortages? Please be specific. 60 seconds.
Yes, much of what we are experiencing, if not almost all of it, is as a direct result of the failed policies of the Democrat Party. But here's the rub. Democrats can change absolutely everything tomorrow if they wanted to. They would just have to admit that every single thing they've ever done and said has been a complete and utter failure. And what are the odds of them doing that? So when you're looking at what they've done, it's not COVID that stopped the supply chain. The reason why the supply chain is the way it is right now, we have 20% of the 9,000 shipping containers sitting outside of ports, and instead of Pete Buttigieg doing what was necessary in order to get the goods and services off those ships and onto the shelves and grocery stores, he went and took maternity leave instead of being able to drill and dig and put the resources, the energy resources, into being able to drill and get it out to not just Americans but also to the rest of the world. Democrats have decided to weaponize climate change and to create a war against energy. So Democrats can change it if they choose to.
All right.
The first mean to you?
Yeah. You know, a few moments ago, Mehmet said that MAGA means respect. No, MAGA means freedom. And if you're a conservative Republican, you know that. Yes, President Trump coined the word MAGA, but the word itself, Make America Great Again, belongs to the people. What does it mean? It means the freedom to live my life the way I choose to live my life, and not to have anyone's foot placed on my throat, telling me what I can and cannot do, forcing me to take a jab when I may or may not want to take a jab, forcing me to do things or to teach my children certain curriculum that I don't want to do. That is what the word means. So although it was coined by President Trump, it certainly belongs to the people of this great nation, and we need to be very mindful of that. And I want the people who are watching, be very mindful and be very clear. It doesn't take much for someone to learn our talking points as conservative Republicans and then come back on stage and parrot them to us. Look at how people have lived their lives prior to the opportunity to actually run for this seat.
Thank you very much. We do have a follow-up for everyone, beginning with seconds. Is it time for the GOP to move past that 2020 election?
Absolutely not. There's nothing more important than making sure that my one vote matters. And we see that elections have consequences, and I thought it was very interesting that Carla Sands is going to delineate how the election was not above par, and yet try to throw me under the bus for what I had no control over. We ran an amazing race in 2020, but yes, elections have consequences, and we must understand what happened, and we must hold people accountable. Not just understand, but we need to hold people accountable for what they did.
Thank you, Lisa.
At 60 seconds, what have you learned over the last 2 years that would define your policy priorities?
We need to walk as free people. We need to remember that that COVID does not trump the U.S. Constitution. Those are some very key lessons that we should have learned coming out of this. We should have also learned what kind of leadership we really need at this moment. We lived through 2 years that felt like literal hell jumped out on top of us, with Democrats putting their foot on our throats, putting their foot on our businesses, their foot on our economy, their foot on our children. We should have learned a very valuable lesson of what kind of leader we need at this moment. We need people who are going to be fighters. We don't need people who are globalists in the way that they have lived their lives and ran their business. And although I think you're a magnanimous individual, but you and your corporation, McCormick, you are a part of the WEF, the World Economic Forum, you as well as you, Oz, they're both part of the World Economic Forum. This is a very serious organization that has a mindset of pushing globalism and ESG, environmental social governance.
Okay, thank you.
And we need to be mindful of that.
Thank you, Ms. Barnette. 15-second quick response.
Not letting Title 42 expire on May 23rd, is that appropriate? Or should public health orders be controlling migration? You have 60 seconds.
It is appropriate. Yes, it is. You cannot have a state of national emergency for the nation, but not have a national emergency as it relates to COVID at the border. But that is, it's in line with a lot of other illogical things that the Biden administration and Democrats have forced upon American people. Right now, we are on track of having over 4 million unlawfully present people come into our nation. There is nothing racist, there is nothing dispassionate about wanting to know who's coming into our country, where are they going, how are they going to take care of themselves. That just makes plain sense. It's not just the fentanyl, but it's the human trafficking and the human suffering that is also coming into our country. We need to secure our border by a variety of measures. We need to enforce the Remain in Mexico, enforce the first safe nation. People should not be allowed to to shop for asylum. And lastly, we need to take a strong look at the USCIS. We have 1.5 million people trying to get into the country legally, and they're being barred of doing so.
Mr.
In favor of legislation that would ban trans women from competing in women's sports. 30 seconds.
Absolutely. Biology matters. Biology is a reality. And I mean, it is. I find it to be unjust. I find it to be misogynist. You cannot compete and get all the benefits of being a man all your life, and then suddenly decide one day you want to be a woman. I find it to be incredibly unjust. Not only do we need to have laws that protect those who find themselves outside of the norm of what society may consider the norm, but we also must look at legislation that protects our young boys and girls as well.
Same question.
But you did an entire show on July 22nd, 2015, that was about 8, 7, 8, 9-year-old children, and you were supporting those conversations about transgender transitions, surgical things, treatments that would be irreversible. So I think we could all agree that that's absolutely inappropriate in every way.
I wish we could continue
I'm sorry.
on. We've got
I'm sorry, that's a little too much.
10 seconds to respond.
So David McCormick is going to be my biographer.
No,
he studied my resume so carefully. I do television shows, as I should, about views that need to be expressed on network television.
All right, we have got to move on. Our producers are telling us got to get those closed.
Yes, I am you. I'm you. I have been traveling over 1,500 miles all across this Commonwealth, more than any other candidate here. When someone mentions a county, I see your faces, I hear your stories. I'm sitting across the table with you. I've been in $1 million homes. I've been in some very humble homes. But these are very serious times. Our country is in trouble, and we need people who not only memorize our talking points, but people who have actually lived our talking points and who will fight for you and your family. 30 seconds.